This is grammar lesson number 3 for chapter 3 of Spanish 1. This corresponds with page 5 in your notes packets for chapter 3 and page 107 of your textbook. Okay, so please get out your notes, page 5. And we're going to talk today about two different kind of little words that we use quite often in Spanish. We're going to talk about a and de and the different uses of those. So we're starting off with a. And your point number 1 tells you just kind of the meaning and kind of when you combine this with another word, there's going to be a change. So let's talk about a first. The preposition a means either to or at. So I go to the store. I'm looking at a particular person. So generally the translation for a is to or at. Now there's lots of different uses for this word, but if the word that comes next in the sentence is el, like I'm saying to the gym or to the store, that kind of stuff, to the library. If my next word is el, the form of the that means is el, those two words are combined into all. That's a contraction. So we have lots of contractions in English. For instance, do not becomes don't. Will not becomes won't. Okay, there are really only 2 contractions in Spanish, but the thing about it is that you have to use them. So when these 2 words are next to each other in a sentence, when they're said, it's almost automatic to combine the sounds. But when it's written, that's when you have to kind of be careful to know, okay, on, el together becomes all. So let's look at an example sentence where this would happen, and then another one where it's just going to be and then the form of the. Okay, so the first one, yo voy al gimnasio. Okay, and that means I go to the gym. But notice what happened with that al. It would have been a and then el gimnasio, the gymnasium. Okay, and el combined to al. Whereas in the second example, yo voy a la tienda. I go to the store. Now in this case, the form of the for tienda is la. I don't have to do anything special with that phrase. Okay, but the main point in numero uno is that a and el combine to all. Okay, and just knowing that a itself means to or at. This is a word that we're going to use a lot with ir, to go, you're going to a certain place, and also with the verb dar. You give something to someone. All right, number 2 then is next in your packet. Okay, there's one other little point about a. And this one, again, is kind of a little, just kind of an added little grammar thing that happens in Spanish. If the direct object of the sentence, now if you remember from English class what a direct object is, it answers the question who or what about the verb. Okay, like receives the action. So if the direct object of the sentence is a person, there's an extra a in front of their name. So a couple of verbs from this chapter that goes along with this. One is dar. Okay? One is mirar, to look at. That's our example. And then another one would be prestar atención or escuchar. You pay attention or you listen. Well, you can pay attention or listen to a thing or a person. When that is a person, there's an extra a in the sentence. So look at the difference between these 2 examples. I think that'll really help you with this one. So yo miro la tele. Okay? That's saying I watch TV, right? I watch the TV. Yo miro un DVD. That was another one of our examples. Yo escucho música. Okay? That's all where an item receives the action. Yo miro a la profesora. Okay? I look at the teacher. Okay? Or I watch the teacher. And you can even think of it that way, as to look at something. Yo escucho a mi madre. I listen to my mom. Okay? So there's definitely a situation, if there's a person that receives the action, there's an extra a in the sentence. And, as far as reason why, can't really tell you other than that it's a way to be a little more formal. But that is kind of both points numbers 1 and 2 here that you see on the screen are just kind of some little grammar things that happen with the word ah. So a plus L equals all, ah, and then a person, or add an ah to the sentence if a person receives the action. Okay, so that's point number 2. Pause here if you need to. I'm going to this next slide then, which has point number 3 on it. Okay, so along with looking at the word ah, we're also going to talk a little bit about day. And we've already used day in a couple of different situations. We use it to say where someone is from, that kind of thing. And we also use it in some location phrases. Okay? So day, first of all, meaning of or from. Okay? So soy de los Estados Unidos. I'm from the United States. Okay. Remember on the last slide that a plus L equals all? Something very similar happens with day and L. If those two words are next to each other, they're going to combine to del. And when you say it, it almost automatically happens. And it's because the two sounds just kind of blend together. Day, L, del. Okay? It's when it's written that you have to kind of pay attention to it. So I'm giving you some examples of sentences that use day here. And you notice that in some cases we're using del, in some cases we're using day, and then a different form of the. Okay, so in the first one, es el libro del profesor. This one actually shows us a little bit about possession. It is the book of the teacher, or it is the teacher's book. If you remember from last chapter, we talked a little bit about possession there, and it's item, day, and then the name of the owner. Now, if the owner happens to be el, like el hermano, el profesor, that kind of thing, then you're going to see del in the sentence. The second example, es el libro de la profesora. Same sentence, but this time the teacher is a woman, and instead of saying del, I can say de la. Okay. Estoy delante de la casa. Okay, these last two examples deal with location. Delante de, cerca de, lejos de, some of those phrases we've been working on in the chapter. Estoy delante de la casa, I'm in front of the house. Okay. Pretty word-for-word sentence. De and la are next to each other, so I don't have to do anything special with that. But the last example, estoy delante del carro. I'm in front of the car, and this time my form of the is el, so I have to combine it. So, quick recap. A plus L equals all, de plus L equals del. Otherwise, it's however you would normally use it in the sentence. All right, pause here if you need to, but I'm going to go on to the next slide, which gives you some example sentences. Not the ones from your notes, but just some extra examples. All right, so los ejemplos. Let's take a look at a picture and a couple of sentences as examples. So Diego busca su calculadora. We're not using de or a here at all. We're saying Diego looks for his calculator. But in the second sentence, very similar. Diego busca a su mamá. Now instead of looking for an item, he's looking for a person, right? Diego looks for his mom, and because that direct object is a person, we have the extra a. Ellos van al comedor. Okay, so they go where? To the dining room. Okay, a plus L equals all, al comedor. Ellos van a la cocina. Okay, very similar sentence this time, but instead of a masculine word like comedor, we have the feminine word cocina. So a la, they go to the kitchen. And we don't have to worry about all at all in that sentence. Es la casa de los Ruiz. Okay. It's the house of the Ruizes, or it's the house of the Ruizes family. De and los next to each other. I don't have to do anything special with that sentence. Es la casa del profesor. Okay, it's the house of the teacher, and the teacher happens to be a guy, so de and el combined to del. Estoy cerca del jardín. Okay. So cerca de, remember, means close to. I'm close to the garden. But el jardín, de and el had to combine. Estoy cerca de la tienda. Okay, I'm close to the store. Didn't have to do anything special with that sentence. Stay in love. All right, well, hopefully these examples helped. What's the next? Okay, so what's next for your homework assignment? First of all, I'm going to tell you the secret word for this lesson, and that is la profesora. So that's your secret word. Okay, also what's next? The 4 translation sentences that you see on the screen should be the same as the example sentences on your notes, page 5. So please write them both in your homework assignment below this video and also on your notes, page 5. All right, adios.